As soon as I hit record, the whistle goes off. Lunch is over. Okay. We put some shims in here. And that's were too thick. It wasn't getting a close enough fit on the door. But if you don't shim this out here about this thickness, the hinges are going to bind. They will when I use them. And we'll show a quick little look of our latch. This was like a hooked eye bolt. You can use the length of a chain. Goes in there. We'll be able to see inside. Where I brazed it inside also. But ended up, this was kind of a little bit higher, so I just bent it accordingly. Went up. This is some of that epoxy you need together. We get the two parts, you need it like clay. I may make a knob for this out of plastic, something on the lathe. May or may not. But you get the idea. You have two nuts on here. You can lock it where you want. I have a washer on the inside so it'll spin easier. Out here, this was just a 1/4-inch bolt. A little piece of rod was brazed in there, which wasn't too hard. I just filled, it was a type of bolt that had the indent. So I filled it with a puddle of braze, set the rod down into it, brazed it there. Had a couple cracks when I was bending it. Cheap metal rod, had to fill a little brazing, but this will all be painted black. So there is some brazing out on here, but get the idea. I used short rivets on the door because I had some left, and used longer ones in here. I decided to rivet instead of bolt it. I'm trying to make this cheap and easy to make. The door could be a little tighter. Get this over here. The door could be a little bit tighter. If you want a little bit tighter, just bend this rod. Heat it, bend the rod so it'll be in there tighter. That way you really don't have to bend this. You can do both, but you can always bend the rod a little bit later, which I'll probably do. So I'll heat it up and bend the rod out a little bit but I don't have the bolt really super tight yet. Into the back. This is how I do this. You can see this piece. Let me get on camera here. Might have some glare in here, but just drill a whole bunch of holes around. Stay inside your marker line. Stick your pipe up on there, draw around it, but stay inside the marker line. If the hole's a little too big, you can fill in the gap anyway, but this piece will probably get used somewhere on something. It is a nice little piece of metal. The stove pipe. We're not going to make an angle. We're not going to make an angle to the pipe. What we're going to do, we've been marking on this and doing all kinds of figuring, so just ignore that. We're just going to cut a piece of pipe, goes out. We're going to stick it up against here. You'll see that when I get that done. We're going to make it simple, put the pipe. So what we'll be doing is we'll be capping off the bottom. We're just going to cut a piece of pipe, fish them out to fit around here, make this simple. Because I want the pipe to be tucked up as close to the stove as I can. Okay, that's 8-inch. That's about the biggest fry pan or kettle I'm going to ever put on it. So we're going to have the pipe hugging right against here as close as we can get. So we want the pipe tucked in real tight. So when we get done with the pipe, we'll have another little shot. That'll be the end of this part of the video. If we miss anything, we can always cover it in the very end. But just like the door, it'll be adjusted later. This is a thicker piece of metal. This is off a propane tank that I had made my first pot-bellied stove. So it is thicker than this. And I don't think we can see the templates over there. It's a 6-inch hole, and this is 6 3/4. I didn't go 7. This overlaps 3/8 of an inch. That was enough. That worked out just the way I liked it. It didn't have to be a full 7-inch because the way I overlapped the door and the way the hinge fit, just the way I figured it. So I don't want to make these too long, but that's the progress so far, and we'll also include the clip when we get done with the stovepipe today. Cold and rainy, it's only about 65 degrees out. I'm trapped in the shop with the door shut, and I actually fired up the wood stove a little bit, so kind of unusual weather here in June. back to work. Okay, how I make the stovepipe. I make a template first, which I square. This is 2 3/4 inch on the outside. It's easier to hold this up. So I'll make a square that's 2 3/4. Then I set my pipe in it. Say this was the corner of the paper. That way you get your lines on there. Might be hard to show up on the camera. But then you find, if you look in here, this has a seam in here, okay? So I will line up one of them on the seam. That way you get 4 lines around here, okay? So you got this quartered. Then what I'll do is, this does not have to be all the way in the middle. Say you line up with this line. This does not have to go all the way on that way. You can make it go all the way here, but I decided it doesn't have to go all the way on there. Kind of use this doing bicycle stuff. But you get the idea. That way you line it up. Then just take your marker and do an approximate. And when I grind this out, I will fit this up in here and see how it fits. If I like that, I will copy the same idea on the other side. And one way to do that is wrap a piece of paper around here. Come in here, draw it with your marker. Get on camera. Draw it with your marker, then stick it on the other side. Cut it out. I think you get the idea. Just make your template on a piece of paper. So when I get this to fit real good on the pipe, I'll make a template for the other side. And you're lined up on a line which is 180 degrees around. You get the idea. Get one side to fit, make a paper template, stick it on the other side, and then you can copy it. Or if you're good, you can freehand it. I have freehanded them by looking at it. And you'll see when I'm done, this will end up rounded. When you make a fish mouth, this will end up kind of rounded to fit. You'll be taking some off the corner here, and I'll show when I'm done. Not to make it too long, we'll get the pipe made and we'll show you what it looks like.